The first thing you want to do in maintaining your soft water system is check the hardness in it. It's one of the things that will tell you, besides the obvious signs of maybe using more soap or maybe you'll feel like your skin's not as soft, it tells you kind of where you're at in your system because there's so many things that can happen. The salt bridge in the bottom of the tank, the brine tank, and the different things like that that malfunction in the water softener. This is a pretty simple test, and if it's something that you don't want to do yourself, once again, there's a lot of technicians that will help you out and get you an idea of where your soft water is. Okay, testing the water here, we've pulled some tap water from a laboratory sink, and we're going to dip this out in this little vial here. What we do first is we take this exact sample because everything's measured out. This is a pretty simple kit, and it's one that I'd recommend if you wanted to get one. Simpler the better in my book. You pour this in to this. You get one of the little packets. And what we do is we open it up and pour it in. And we're checking the water for its color here. Okay, now we drop this solution in, which is a titrant solution. You just take a little dropper that it comes with, and you count it out, one drip at a time. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and as you can see, it's turned blue. The solution itself, we're at about 14 parts per million. This is a pretty high level for water hardness here. It's not the highest that I've seen, but at this level, you definitely want to look for having your water softened, without a doubt. So there's our simple test in coming in first and foremost in starting our water softener maintenance. Okay, I always check the depth of the tank, either with my broom handle. Usually I'll just get my thumb and then maybe I'll put a little mark on there, a piece of tape or something you can take off later. But then you take it in there and you kind of punch through and crunch through the salt, make sure that you're down on the bottom, because salt bridges can form in there with water coming in, and water will not fall to the bottom where it actually pulls the water from when it does its regeneration system. So sometimes it's good to go ahead and knock that around and make sure you're getting your salt all the way in the bottom of the tank. Now, of course, cleaning the tank is an important step. What we do is go ahead and vacuum it out, get it down to a low level, vacuum it out, go ahead and wipe it out. It's not critical that this thing is spit shiny. Obviously, it's an open air system, and nothing can really grow in salt brine. There's no real hazard of that. Basically, what it's doing is there to regenerate your resin at when that time comes in your system, depending on how it's set. So what we have there is a clean brine tank. The next thing we check for, obviously, is the time settings. In this particular model, this is how we set the clock. You just push the button once. It has a little PM indicator over here in the top left-hand corner. And you push it to the time frame that it is. Right now, it's about 12 o'clock p.m. And there we have it set. This only goes by the hour. If you're at the half hour or anything like that, it's not critical. And a lot of them are this way. So, don't stress that you have to have it at the exact time. Another thing that you need to do is power does go out sometimes. So periodically, it's good to check the computer itself or the clock, the mechanical clock, because all these run off of power. You need to go ahead and check it to see where it's at, because if the power's off for 4 or 5 hours and then after a month or so, you end up with an 8-hour period and you have it regenerating in the middle of the night when you're not hearing it, and it'll start in the middle of the afternoon or vice versa, depending on your sleep schedule and how that affects you and your listening. Sometimes the water softeners in the garage, it doesn't make any difference to the people, but still, it's a good idea to go ahead and check the computer, and the clock is one of the settings as part of the maintenance of the system. With the water softener, it's pretty hands-off when it comes to the computer itself. Of course, you wouldn't mind wiping the top off to get the dust off and making sure everything kind of works, and if there is any questions that are beyond what you feel your ability is with your manual, call your certified technician to come in and help you out, because there's a lot of guys that will. At any rate, your resin tank is hands-off, hands-free, don't need to touch it. After a certain period of time, average life of these things that I've seen is about 10 to 15 years. Some of them go a little bit longer, some of them go less. It depends on how hard your water is and how much it gets used. So there's a lot of variations that make a thing last or not last. Once it comes to that point, and some guys will say that you can go ahead and change the resin out. It's such a project to do something like that. It's good to go ahead and think about getting a new system at that point anyway. So when it comes to that, that's how that works. Something you do need to do in a system like this is go ahead and exercise the valves, because when you don't, they end up dripping, kind of like what that one's doing on this side here. And if you exercise them about once a month, this right here, by the way, is a bypass valve. What this does is it takes the house water coming in and it bypasses it and runs it right back out the pipe to where you're running just regular water outside, right back into your house. You're not using the softened water with that bypass pushed in. Exercising this keeps the O-rings nice and lubricated inside. Any valve that you have in your house, it's a good idea to exercise it about once a month. If there's ever a problem within the system itself, your water softener, the tubing coming past this to where you have water coming out that shouldn't be, or it's leaking or dripping, you can simply push the bypass in and the water will once again go back into the house and it takes this out of the loop. Now that's not meaning that it's going to stop dripping instantaneously. It may take a minute or two for it to stop just because the water pressure is built up in there. Once you hit the bypass and you're sure, there's little indications on the sides of these valves that you can see that says push to bypass or push to operate water softener. You'll be able to know right away whether you've got it in the right for bypassing the system itself. That's only in an emergency or in the case that you're going to be taking the system out or taking the head off to rebuild it, which is a major task as far as something beyond what the normal homeowner would do.